Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vampire the Masquerade, The Dark Ages, the Transylvania Chronicles. This is our session 0 here on Dork Tales, where we're going to be talking with the cast, getting to know them, and getting you to understand what we're going to be doing in this upcoming chronicle. I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm your storyteller, Kelly. I use he and him as my pronouns. And folks, welcome to Dork Tales. If this is your first time here, we are a group of role players that are based out of the Pacific Northwest of Canada who try to bring interesting, diverse stories with a hell of a lot of drama and fun straight to you. So if this is your first time here, be sure to give us a follow and a sub. We're going to be getting into game and talking about what we're doing in the upcoming Chronicle that's going to be starting next week on Wednesday night, January 24th at 7 p.m. Pacific. Before we do that, I have to do a big thank you to one of the main reasons that we can afford to do this, and that is our sponsor for the night, Bookworm Games. Bookworm Games is first and foremost a huge supporter of the World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness. They are a Vancouver area dice proprietor and gaming megalith, I'm going to say. They're also fantastic people, and I can say for a fact that the first time I ever had a conversation with Michael, the proprietor of Bookworm Games, when he started the Zoom call, there was a giant Nosferatu print directly behind him. And I fell in love with their vibe, and I think you will too. Go to bookwormgames.com right now for tons of dice, including some amazing Gemstone World of Darkness inspired dice. And you can save 15% off of your order if you use code DorkTales. All of those prices are in Canadian dollars, so if you are outside of Canada, it is a value. Plus, shipping's free at $100 or more Canadian. Thank you so much to Bookworm Games. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you for being our support and for being here with us. With that in mind, what is the Transylvania Chronicles? The Transylvania Chronicles is one of the most legendary Vampire the Masquerade pre-written adventures. It is an 800-year-long epic that begins in 1198 and takes you to the end of the millennium. We're going to be trying to get our way through the entire thing. I have no idea how long it's going to take, and it's going to be fantastic. Now, this is a very dark game, and we're going to be talking through that in a minute. And mild spoiler warning, we are going to be talking incredibly mild spoilers for a almost 30-year-old module. So if you're desperate to go into this blindly, then
no spoilers. They're rough.
They're rough. It's gonna be pretty mild though, because I don't want them to be spoiled. And if you are here in our chat typing live or leaving comments over on YouTube, please do not spoil these guys, because nobody here has actually been through the Transylvania Chronicles. Chris, did you go through a tiny bit?
Yeah, with you.
Oh, that's right. We got like 3 episodes in. We got to like the end of what will be our like first episode of
I think
this, probably.
So. I don't even know how much of that was like just put together. Like
a lot of it was put together. Yeah. So and not actually the plot. So before we get into that though, what we're going to do right now, we're going to introduce ourselves to you, starting with me, and then we're going to go in a big circle. What I want you all to do is tell us a little bit about you, give us a little plug where we can find you. So hey everybody, I'm Kelly, I'm the storyteller here. Like I said, he and him is my pronouns. I am a professional writer, voice actor, and performer, and I'm the main host here on Dork Tales. You can find me here, but you can also find me in a ton of different places over on like Storyteller's Vault. Search Kelly J. Clark. You'll find me working a lot with onyxpath and with None More Dark Studios. We just recently put out Vampire the Requiem for Rome, 2nd edition, which has been doing gangbusters over there. So check it out if you like Roman vampires. And I wrote the part about the pig, so enjoy. Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin. I use she, her pronouns. I am a 2nd-gen gamer in the Twitch chat live. I sometimes stream on my own channel, not as much, but I've sometimes been known to be the voice of God over with Lady Liliana, either doing Guild Wars or, as of late, Baldur's Gate. Hoping to get back into Twitch streaming on my own channel, but who knows? Yeah, I love doing Dork Tales, and I really enjoy the World of Darkness, mage, and so I've always loved vampires, so I'm excited.
And this is your first Vampire the Masquerade game, or vampire game of any kind, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my first vampire game, so I'm excited to put my teeth into it.
First blood.
First blood.
Sink your teeth into it.
Yeah, it's
we're
like
gonna
my
get
teeth
into editions and stuff, but at least have played Mage, so you're familiar with
I
20th
have.
edition stuff.
I am. So,
Oh.
I feel like it's gonna be fun, but I'm super excited because I love vampires.
Your little
I grew
gothy
up-
heart is
I
going to
was-
be very happy.
My gothy heart, and I was in middle school when Twilight came out, so that was my prime time for being, the vampire craze. I liked them before, watching like Buffy and the Vampire Diaries and True Blood. So like I love me some vampires.
This is a lot more close to like Interview with the Vampire and True Blood, but we'll
Yeah.
we'll get into that shortly. So welcome, Robin. Let's hop over to Chris, who definitely is not in his first vampire rodeo.
Oh no, this is oh gosh, there's been a lot. I love vampire. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm I use he, him, or they, them pronouns, and vampire's fantastic. It's actually probably it's the first World of Darkness game I ever played. I forget which edition it was. I was in middle school. I'm actually one of our few friends that there's a few of us that Kelly did not introduce the World of Darkness to.
Oh, I know, right?
And my first character was a gangrel who died very, very quickly because, didn't know the game too well, but it was great. I'm really looking forward to this group of people as well for the game. The characters, what I've heard about them so far, talking, it's just been, it's going to be striping. It's going to be just absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic. You know who else is fantastic? The dude beneath you, Kal.
Hello. I'm the dude beneath Chris. My name is Kal. I am.
That's more suggestive than I thought.
How you doing?
How you
Wrong
doing?
Chris, maybe?
And I'm Neo Cal in the chat and in most places. I do the lay podcasting when I'm not on Dork Tales. I think the first Vampire the Masquerade, I got it from eBay in 2005. Like the OG Vampire, like the green backdrop with the rose on.
Oh yeah, everybody
On
loves
it.
that one.
Yeah. From eBay, a whole bunch of stuff from like eBay, because I suddenly discovered tabletop games. And the first one I tried to play was this, but the people were too intimidated. So I just ended up running 3.5 for like the 100th time back in college. And never got to actually play it until maybe like LARP stuff.
Yeah, because you ran a Lost Boys inspired LARP that I was in for quite a few years.
Yeah. And I even have an ending planned for like a 2-3 session ending planned for that. If I can dream.
You can dream. You know,
You never
know. There was just this like little plague that went around that stopped us from playing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
can we find
always
you?
been like adjacent, right? Like video
Mhm.
pretty true to the world of Vampire the Masquerade was Bloodlines, that ancient game that could barely play. And I don't think I've like played like a tabletop like game like all the way through. I've just like made characters and dreamt of like playing with people. So technically, outside of LARP, this is my first game.
We're happy to have you here.
Vampire.
And we can find you on Lasercomb, right?
Yeah, it's Lasercomb, particularly Too Much Energon, if you like Transformers.
Perfect. You'll do a shout out at the end. I'm sure you definitely should check out his podcast. It is the 11th most popular podcast in Canada on some sites. We just found out.
What? That's awesome.
I know.
And last
Thank
but
you.
certainly not least, it's Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen. I use she, her pronouns. And you can find me here on Dork Tales and McKelly Daniels in the chat, pretty much anywhere, actually, provided they give me that username. And you can find me on my podcast, Paradox and Mage of the Ascension podcast, which is about Mage of the Ascension, not vampire. However, I have been playing vampire for a very long time. I'm pretty sure it was my first LARP session. Before Kelly let me play Mage because Mage was exclusive.
It was. You don't let just
It's
anybody
true.
in a mage game.
Yeah. And yeah. I currently, and this is the fun part, I currently play a vampire game off stream, not related to Dork Tales, that is a hybrid system and set in the 1500s. So this is going to mess me up real bad.
I love it. I love it. We're going to ruin the past. Kill the past. All
Yay.
right. You can also check out Jen's podcast at paradoxmagepodcast.podbean.com or search Paradox and Mage of the Ascension podcast wherever your podcasts are sold. Because Jen is kicking ass with that thing. It's great. Oh, we need to organize my next appearance on it. So hit me up later.
We do. I need to finish this week's episode first, which is neither written nor recorded and is due out on Friday. So, yay.
All right. So, folks, this session, we are going to be doing a few things. First of all, we are going to be going through characters. We're going to be talking about what we're doing. We're going to be talking about what we're playing. I don't want anybody to give away any big secrets about their character. You know, if you're secretly a Bali, I don't want to know. Well, I mean, I want to know, but don't let anybody else know. You know, go with what is being presented publicly. We're going to talk about merits, flaws. We're going to talk about paths, auras, languages. We're going to talk about the basic setting, and we're also going to talk about anything that we are going to be changing for stream. Those of you who are fans of the Transylvania Chronicles know that it does concern a lot of things that are not necessarily things that a lot of gaming groups might touch on in 2024, as they would have in the late 90s. For example, there is a lot of, well, it's the Dark Ages. You let your imagination run wild about this kind of stuff that would violate Twitch terms of service. We are doing this on a public broadcasting platform, so we do have to be careful about what we're doing and make sure not to go super over the top gratuitous just for its own sake. That said, I think we do pretty well. We're also going to be talking about any house rules that we're using and a little bit about the system that we are using with this and any other little things that pop up. This game is going to be running on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, unless something else supersedes it. I'm taking a week off in February, for example. The YouTube release will be on Friday night, and eventually, when we have enough episodes in the can, I will start releasing this on our podcast, Dork Tales the Podcast. You can find pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. So, with that in mind, I just want to talk for a second about the Transylvania Chronicles. So, the Transylvania Chronicles, as a module, starts in 1198 in Budapest, actually. You are all summoned to Budapest to meet with your sires or your patrons if your sire is no longer with us. Basically, the person who is in charge of you. You're all neonates, so it's whoever basically has your leash at that moment. This is the Dark Ages. A time of untold horrors, where the elders hang on to their childer with an iron grip, and have no end of chains of blood wrapped round their throats. You are going to be sent to Budapest to meet with them, where you are going to be given a mission. And that mission will decide your fate for the next, well, the start of your eternity. We are going to be looking at the way the game is set up, and we are going to be talking about that as we go. But first, I want to know who is populating this world. So as the storyteller, of course, I'll be playing everybody else, including your sires, but let's go in reverse order. I want you to tell me who you're playing and a little bit about them. Things like clan, you can say generation if you want to. You can even go as nitty-gritty as to talk about your disciplines. And if you're new to Vampire the Masquerade, disciplines are your vampiric powers. So, Jen, let's start with you and go in reverse so that we end with the person who knows the least about Vampire.
I'm appreciative of that.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay, yeah. I will be playing Elona Fyodorov. She is a gangrel, And so for those of you who don't know, they're the very feral, wild vampires, and their clan weakness is actually which they updated for V20, thankfully.
Yeah.
But every time they frenzy or lose control of their vampiric beast, they gain an animal trait. Now this can be physical, behavioral, or mental, or so like anything like that. It doesn't have to be just physical, but if you noticed on our character art, she does have fox ears that she kind of tries to hide with her hair a bit. And she does have cat eyes. And those ones are more or less permanent, though if the contacts start to really bother me, I might just be like, and suddenly she doesn't have cat eyes anymore. But because V20 updated that those flaws are temporary
Yeah,
for the
they
most
used to
part
be
now.
permanent. Like
Yeah, they
as
used to
soon as
all
you
be
frenzied
permanent.
once.
They were
Yeah.
awful.
Oh, I
My
didn't know they were
favorite-
temporary.
They're temporary now.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah.
You can make them permanent if you want, I guess. My
Yeah,
favorite
they
was
they can last anywhere from like an hour to forever if you want.
my favorite old one was the psychological one where a gangrel had to turn around 3 times before sitting down.
That
Like
one's
so.
great. That's used as an example in the V20 Dark Ages book, actually, I
I
think.
love it. I love it.
Oh, I
but they
never
do things
thought
like
about
marking
behavioral ones.
yeah, marking your territory with I mean urine for an animal, but
Yeah.
blood, you know?
Yeah. I have a chart that I'm working on for Kelly to pull flaws from, things that I'm
Okay.
comfortable doing,
Yeah.
or because we talked about that, so that you're not
Yeah, 'cause-
trying to think middle of game what happens to me.
Well, and the one of the problems with Gangrel is because they have formerly a permanent change. You had to have a good relationship with your storyteller or really not care what happened to them and really ride into it. If your storyteller suddenly said, okay, you have goat eyes and a baboon's ass, which I say that to be facetious, but that kind of stuff, did happen back in Revised.
Mm-hmm. And especially for something like Stream, we were talking about how physical flaws can be really difficult for me to pull off if, I'm trying to dress up for the camera every time. I don't want to be
Yep.
gluing fur to my face every single game. So I've listed a bunch of like physical flaws that I would be happy having happen. Whether or not they show on camera, they can still happen to her, like growing a tail, for instance, something
Mhm.
like that. That's fine. And then a bunch of like mostly behavioral ones because they're fun to just role play, especially if
Absolutely.
I'm only role playing them for a game or two.
Absolutely. So what else about her do you want to share?
Yeah. She is basically she's this play off of the like wild witch woman that you might find in outside of cities, and she's pagan, she deals in herbalism, and that's kind of how she makes her very limited money because she doesn't care about money except when she needs it. So she does, potions and cures and stuff. She also has a fun merit that that I'm so glad Kelly let me take because it's a witchcraft merit. So I can actually do
course.
a single incantation. I can do a single spell. And I've figured that out, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And she she's 8th gen. I'm trying to think. There was something else that I was just trying to
So while you're
remember.
thinking about that, I'm also just going to say that as we're talking, you're going to notice that a lot of characters are pretty low in generation. For those outside of the know, generation is the steps removed from the first vampire, Cain. He is 1st generation. His first children were 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Starting in Dark Ages, you're usually around 12th generation, and are allowed to buy down as low as 7th, which is when the powers get real wonky. I have modified it for this. This is a long-term campaign where the characters will eventually become elders. So I've started everyone at 8th generation. However, the further up the ladder they want to go away from Cain, the more freebie points I give them at character creation. So if they do want to be 9th generation, boom, there's a little bit more. 10th, boom, a little bit more. And it's pretty advantageous, but I think most of them would rather have the generation.
13th generation, here we go.
13th generation, 50 freebies.
Oh,
Not
Yeah, I
really.
can't remember the specific thing I wanted to mention, but yeah, she's basically the no, I know what it was. I was looking at my character sheet trying to figure it out and it's not on there. But specifically I wanted her to be a member of the cult of Velas, and
Mm.
specifically of Vela, which is a female member, usually Gangrel, and it's a neat little cult that's based on Slavonic paganism, but it's a vampire cult, which I think is just really cool.
And like
Anyways,
one of their big
Vila are
things,
known for their savagery.
and they also are big on almost acting. Well, in some of the stuff I was reading about some potential sires that you were looking at, a lot of them act like almost kind of like Valkyries in many ways. Like they
Yeah,
show up on battlefields
the
and just like
the
you die.
yeah, the Einherjar, which are a gangrel like bloodline
Hmm.
essentially, um, are based off of Viking Valkyries and whatnot, are basically Vila. So yeah,
I love it. I
yeah,
love it. Murder's going to be pretty common in this game. Is there anything else,
especially
or
for
should we
me.
pass to Cal? Yeah.
I think that's everything I want to go over now. So we'll pass to Cal.
All right, Cal, tell us about Bastion.
All right. Um, yeah, Bastion. Uh, came up with the name like after the concept, but I just Kelly knows better than anyone else that I had like five solid ideas, and then I moved down to three, and it was like,
And
okay,
you moved up to 10.
which, and then I moved back up to 10, yeah, and I was like, which, oh, like what do you think would be cool? Like, oh, what should I do? And like I have all these like that I want to play, but like we're gonna be playing this game for a while. Um,
800 years.
what would I be? Yeah, yeah, real time.
Real
What
time.
would I be like happy like playing? And we ended up like settling on. It's weird. Like the disciplines are a big part of like the clan and like the character and things. And it was like, I like the idea of this clan, but I don't like their how they work. And I ended up settling on. Kelly helped me with this. Like, think of what the character, like the dude, like what dude do you want to play?
From the Big
And
Lebowski.
then think about the dude. Um, I'll
Oh, I
find
see. Think
him
about the dude.
and sire him in a few hundred years.
Sounds good.
Um,
Would be a
how
monkey,
dare
right?
they do that to his carpet? But and I was like, okay, well, like the idea of kind of like the idea of like a wandering or like a courtless like jester or wandering fool, right? Because there's a lot of symbolism in the fool or a court jester, right? Like they're always the ones that can actually politically like say what's going on. Um like they were often given bad news to deliver to the lord, whoever they were under. And I don't know, people weren't funny back then, but the fools tried. There's nothing to be happy about back for most of human history, really.
Most of human
I
history.
everyone knows that comedy wasn't invented until the
Tell Calvin and
1800s.
Hobbes. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, 1900s.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I ended up settling on uh, Malkavian because I like the idea of being able to see things that others can't and to not be seen. And
Hmm.
they're like one of the few clans that can do that. And it really fit with the wandering fool concept. And we expanded upon that. And it's like, well, what if his, um, what if his, uh, what's the word I'm thinking for? I was going to say dementation, but that's the discipline.
His derangement.
His
Derangement.
derangement. What if his derangement is like something greater than him? Like he gets visions, like a visionary. And so the fool is like the demeanor, but like the nature is somebody that devoutly believes in something greater than their own existence.
Hmm. The traditional Malkavian concept was really the Cassandra, the seer. The
Yeah.
seer who's not believed ever because you're crazy, so why would we believe you?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that it's been interesting watching Vampire the Masquerade develop over the years because derangements and the idea of insanity in a tabletop game has really evolved with more knowledge of mental health. I don't think there's a person in this game that is playing, and many of you viewers at home, that don't have any type of mental health issue. Right? So the idea of having like attention deficit disorder or anxiety or depression as like a character flaw is kind of weird. So we did a lot of talking about that and
We did.
decided that something bigger than that, like Kal was saying, having visions of like angels and demons and stuff, while parallel to something perhaps like schizophrenia, is a bit more fantastical, you know? And besides, who knows if they're actually there? They could be. He could just have like a second sight or a seventh sight or whatever number it is.
Demon the Fallen is just playing in Bastion's head.
Yeah, maybe, and there's a whole other world that's just Demon the Fallen.
Earthbound.
There we go. Yeah,
Nice.
and that was something that I put up. I had a big problem with the old school LARP and the old school Vampire the Masquerade, because when you get into the derangements, I'm like, they're just
Yep.
listing
The
mental health.
DSM.
They're not listing yeah, they're not listing like what we see, like what I like move like theater madness, right? Like actual split personalities, or like, you know, like having dreams about like how people like die and then like needing to stop it, like Donnie Darko, like having something like that's not an actual just like mental illness.
Yeah, well, I
And
mean, the
was
fact
like,
that,
why
like-
is that fun?
Yeah, having a vampire with bulimia was not, and that's not a joke. Like bulimia used to be one of the things. So did nymphomania
Schizophrenia.
/ satyr was a big
Yep.
one. The only fun ones were power object fixation. That was always a good one. Sanguinary animism, where you drank blood and stole their memories. Because basically you wrote
That is cool.
That's a cool one, right? And if you kill them, they stick around forever.
Oh,
type of
I
thing.
remember that.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I
I love it.
remember that. That's good. Yeah, and I like that kind of magical like madness thing. So we kind of, it's to be revealed, but it's kind of on the end that they're not a saint, because that implies that they are
A prophet.
of importance, and they are not. They are, yeah, like a prophet, a messenger.
You're touched. In the
Yes.
like they say that you are touched by the angels, but you actually might be touched by the angels. Oh my god.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And
geez.
yeah, I really liked that, and I leaned into that, and I think I got a really solid. I'm really happy with what we ended up coming up with, and
I think
Yeah,
people are really
This-
gonna like it.
I'm really excited to see this. Like, I know Malkavians, they've got a lot of stigma, and it's always been one that I personally have felt uncomfortable with playing or trying to
Mhm.
portray, because I don't think I could do it serious enough for what
Yeah.
it is. But the way that you guys are taking it, I'm really looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, there's this really hard balance, and this was part of our conversation, but between the ridiculous, what we tend to refer to as fish malks, where you just carry a fish around, you bonk somebody on the head with it, and you're a Malkavian because you're crazy. You don't want to go that route, but also with so many people having mental health issues and being on stream, you want something you can play regularly that's not going to set you off as well. And that, because I had been originally considering Malkavian, and it came to the point of, oh, I'll probably just trigger my own problems, and let's not do that. I'll play
Yeah.
something else.
No, you're just gonna trigger your need to hunt game with your bare hands, which
Which I already have. It's fine.
you already have.
Yeah.
It's just you're basically a house cat. This is just gonna make you an outdoor house cat.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about, Cal? Or should we pass up to Chris?
Yeah, before we pass up to Chris, I think it'll become obvious like when we start to play, but like I really like the nature and demeanor aspect of Vampire the Masquerade. I know some people it's just like, a person's just a person or whatever. But like with this character that I'm playing, that feels very like who he is around people that he feels like he can talk to is going to be so different than how they present themselves like to the court. Air quotes uh for anybody listening, not watching. And I don't know, I think I'll like playing somebody that is the opposite of like worried about their social status and their image and their gain. And especially with a game like Vampire, where like, okay, you're playing Vampire wrong if you're not worried about those things, right? But it doesn't mean that they can't see the value in other people getting those things. Especially other people that can help the vision. Right. So I look forward to the group dynamic like a lot, like so much. I'm like already excited.
Oh yeah. Well, you've got a pagan to the left of you, and then you've got a priest above you in terms of the religious elements. Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit about your guy?
Yeah. So I'm going to be playing Ronald, who was actually a priest before his embrace. I decided to like I had an idea for a character that I wanted to play, and it can kind of be summarized as eat the rich. And I wanted to like eat the rich. The basic idea is somebody who was from some sort of a noble family that was oblated to the church at a young age and decided to stick with it, but became very disillusioned, and is somebody who very much believes in what the actual teachings were or the idea behind them rather than necessarily how things were done, and just sees the entire system as a scam, basically because it's all noble family members keeping the nobles in power and empowering the church, and like everyone else is
Twitch is going to shut us off in like 10 seconds here.
Oh, no, Bezos heard us.
Uh-oh. So I thought, you know what? We're playing Vampire. I want to play somebody who's just like eat the rich. And so I came up with the concept first and like played around with a bunch of different clans. I always, every time Vampire comes up, I always think of Gangrel. They were my first and like always think of it. And I was like, this doesn't really fit a Gangrel. And Jen has this awesome concept for one. And then of course, like, you know, you get the church involved, you start thinking of the La Sombra, and La Sombra are amazing. Don't get me wrong, they're so badass, but I decided I was going to go for a Bruja with this character. The whole kind of against the norms, kind of like fighting against like a bigger system, something to be passionate about. Not necessarily going to be a very combat focused character, or at least to start. We'll see how things develop, but I mean, it's hard not to with that discipline spread. I'm going to, my intention is to, I've got a lot of intentions with this character, but not necessarily set on them, and want to see how things develop. Like with the clan I chose, it wasn't set. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to just playing this game, seeing the interactions with the different characters, and seeing what we can do and how much damage we can cause during this time frame.
All right, fair. All right, anything else you want to bring up about him, or should we pass over to Robin? Nope, just Bruja. Watch a day before next Wednesday. Chris is gonna say, you know what, I changed my mind. I want to be a La Sombra.
If I could be a La Sombra, it won't change too much about my character.
It really won't. You just leave the potence right there.
Right?
All your dots were in potence anyway. Right?
Yeah,
So.
that's true. You know, very potent man. not going to make the joke.
For those outside of the, I know like my knowledge is like very shallow, but the
Boy, if your knowledge is shallow, mine is a puddle. Then I guess.
Well, you guys can ask any questions. Chris and Jen and I are receptacles of lore for this setting. Everything up until and somewhat including 5th edition.
So the Lasombra have ties to the church.
Yep.
Like
and more
very
as the
strong.
church develops. Yeah.
Especially
more
the
as-
Catholic
Yeah.
Church in particular.
Yeah, they are, which is fun when the Second Inquisition comes around.
Yeah.
Yay, Inquisition.
You wouldn't hit a
So-
bat with glasses, would you?
That both makes sense though, especially if you're like fallen. That's hard.
Yeah, right.
Both fit your
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, no,
It's true.
it could definitely be a Lasombra. So who knows? Maybe by then I'll change it. But
Shadow
okay,
magic is
you-
spooky though.
Shadow magic is great, and it's old
It's-
school obtenebration.
oh, I know. It's just
And my off-stream game, I'm playing Alessandra with Abyss Mysticism, and it is so much fun.
I have done that
Here's
before.
you
and
gotta
it was-
give our
was
graphic designer a
frightening.
24-hour lead time on changing your icon. So that's all you have to know.
It's frightening the kind of
What's
stuff
old
that you can do
school?
with it.
What's old school obtenebration?
Old school obtenebration. So actually it's different in Dark Ages, but basically in normal it starts off with manipulating shadows. Just basic manipulation, like cosmetic more than anything, and making
Like
people cold.
real life shadows.
Oh, now I
Uh,
want to play
level
Lasombra.
2
Damn it, guys!
creates a shroud of
Quick, we'll
darkness.
talk about my character to stop talking about Chris's.
So we will say. So level 2 is you create a shroud of darkness that no one can see through, and actually will kill people with low constitution or low.
I only know
Yes,
all of
stamina.
this because of
it'll-
your character.
It'll
Because-
actually suffocate mortals. It'll full on suffocate mortals.
Yeah. Level 3, if
It's not darkness,
Arms of Ahriman.
Shadow Tentacles.
Shadow
Level 4,
tentacles.
Shadow Tentacles is the best because no one ever does as bad as you can with it. If you're inventive, Shadow Tentacles are awful because you can create them out of any source of shadow. In the Guide to the Sabbat for Vampire the Masquerade Revised, there's this line in there that it's a blink and you miss it line, but this guy is this Lasombra is dealing with somebody. I think it's a Camarilla vampire that is coming after him and is in his face, and he creates a shadow tentacle inside of the guy's mouth and inside of his colon at the same time, and makes them shake hands.
There is, so if you go into the Abyss Mysticism, which is blood magic with shadows, basically, there's such a disturbing ritual where effectively you create the abyss like inside yourself and then eat
As a
people
treat.
that way. It's
Oh,
great.
you're giving Chris ideas. Either way, that's, hey, you know what? We still have a week before the first game, and you know what? It won't affect my plot that much. So, Chris, very excited to play with you. You are always diabolical in these games, and I am very curious to see where things will go. But let's hop over and hear from Robin.
So as the newbie,
Yep, you
As-
decided to play the easy clan. You're playing a Toreador.
yep,
Right?
totally, yep, totally. Just kidding. I wanted to be Dracula from,
From Dracula, Dead
from
Loving It.
Dracula of fame.
From Dracula frame.
From Blackula?
Blackula. No.
From Bracula.
So I just gave Precarious a new nickname, or does he already have? Bracula.
Bracula?
Bracula.
All right.
We need Precarious in this game as Brecula.
Oh God, Nick, maybe after one of you dies.
Count
So
Dracula.
Robin, you wanted to be Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
I know we sat down and watched the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula together
Yep.
for this.
Yep. So I settled on Zamisi because I want to craft flesh to my whim and talk to animals, or turn into rats and shit like that. So Teresa is a she was a former ghoul for some special people, and things happened and she was released from service, and suddenly aged up the 60 plus years that she was a ghoul, and then was embraced by her sire. And she's of a noble-ish background, and I definitely wanted to play. It will come out, but she has some baggage. She has quite an interesting backstory, which will be great to hint at later.
It was, because it's definitely some trigger warnings there for people.
Oh yeah.
Is that what happens with ghouls?
Yeah, they age up to where they were first ghouled. So a ghoul, think if you're new to the system, a ghoul is a human being who drinks vampire blood. If you watched the new Renfield movie, something like that. Basically, as long as they keep drinking blood about once a month, they stay the same age and gain some minor supernatural powers. So she lived a long time and then got old.
And got old and embraced. So now she is
What a dick.
Fresh vamp. And yeah, she has a somewhat noble background. She has or works for, lives with, has so I took some of the merits of having my own domain and retainers, so I have servants and such. So she is a well-spoken woman. She had 60 years as a ghoul and spent a lot of time reading and writing and being literate and learning the social hierarchy. And one of my other merits I have is pain tolerance. So she was definitely, used as in the way of the Zamisi that they like to fleshcraft sometimes. So she was put back together again, but she definitely knows pain, and so now she's slightly less sensitive to it, or more, less sensitive to it.
You think you know pain? Try being a woman.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, that's your trigger warning: being a woman in the Dark Ages.
Yeah, right. So yeah, my disciplines.
That's why I'm playing a gangrel.
That's as far away from being a woman as you can be as a woman.
So yeah, my disciplines are animalism, aspects, and vicissitude for the Zamisi, and I'm definitely going to be focusing a lot on animalism and vicissitude because I want to have. You'll notice in the character art that she has a raven, and so she's very familiar with ravens. She has an affinity for them.
Familiar with ravens,
right? Yes.
Caw.
So yes, other than that, don't know necessarily
of course,
what else I want to talk.
You know that you have just opened yourself up now because I know a certain member of our Discord and Patreon is going to be spamming you with all sorts of flesh crafting ideas.
Who could that be?
I wonder who that could be.
Do
it. So
yes.
We have some very enthusiastic Fleshcraft fans.
Yes.
But as we go through, Robin, I will, of course, if you ever have any questions about how to use your powers, this is a much more stagnant system than Mage the Ascension. So the powers do what the powers do and not much more usually. That said, with Fleshcrafting, you have a lot of versatility to do things that are pretty demented. For example, Fleshcrafting level 1 allows you to, level 2 allows you to craft flesh. Level 3 allows you to craft bone. Back when we used to LARP, one of our friends had a fun technique where he had sharpened all of his fingers to razor points so that he could stab you and then pull your bones out. Because flesh crafting costed blood in LARP, at least in tabletop I believe it does as well, but bone crafting does not, because you have to get through the flesh first. So he just cheated and took a shortcut and would pull people's bones out, like he'd pull your skull out of a hole in your forehead.
Also, Robin, I just realized you are playing a very specific kind of life mage.
Oh my god.
You're just playing a plastic surgeon, really. You're like, what if Lady Dimitrescu was a plastic surgeon?
Yeah. So yeah, that is my one of my concepts was Lady D, because I definitely am pulling that. And then Dracula. One of my flaws I have, because again we were watching Dracula and I absolutely adored the shadow. of Dracula, so I actually have animate shadow as a flaw. So I really hope you use that a lot, Kelly, because it's
I
just
will. And
it's
then,
beautiful.
That's great.
I love it so much.
Before we watched Dracula, I also showed her the Treehouse of Horrors episode, where we watched that.
Yeah, you did.
with that. It's so good. Okay, so that said, so you're taking that as a flaw. So we're using merits and flaws because I love them. We're using any of the merits and flaws from, and the hierarchy of books is Dark Ages 20, Vampire 20, then Dark Ages Revised. And that includes Guide to the Low Clans, Guide to the High Clans. And anything that needs to be updated from there can be. And when I also say that, I also include the revised clan books. So if anything out of those jumps out at you, those are fine as well within reason. Just tell me what they are. Does anybody want to talk about any of their merits or flaws? Or are we good?
Sure.
Hold on, let me double check. Oh, I do need to talk one out with you, and so we might as well do it here.
Sure, what is it?
So I'm taking the cursed flaw.
Okay.
Ooh.
And so it's because I was thinking like witch cursed essentially.
Sure.
Is
What level
where
are
I
you
was
taking?
going off of that. And if I read this, so the example that the book gives, actually, I'll just read it. Someone has placed a curse upon you. Work with the storyteller to determine the nature of your curse, why you are cursed, and how it manifests. The following examples demonstrate the scale of your misfortune. So I took it as a 3-point because it's a 1 to 5. So in your hands, tools warp and break is kind of the level of curse, and it can kind of be anything. And I had an idea when I put it on the character sheet, and I have since forgotten it. So I'm up for anything at this point.
Okay, so what level was that again?
Level 3.
Level 3, so nice median level.
Yeah.
Examples of level 3 curses, vampire.
But
I
yeah,
know
anything
there's
that kind of plays off of that, like witch cursed. I figure the why I was cursed was, perhaps it's even something from my mortal life that it was this like other witch woman who just cursed me because I pissed her off or something.
I mean, there's some really easy ones. So, like, you could look up witch superstitions. You could say that this is another flaw in the book, but that flowers wilt near you. You could say that animals bay when you are nearby. You could say milk curdles is an easy one, but I think that's usually a lower level. It doesn't affect you as much. You could say that you have to keep your word if you give it. You could
True.
say that anybody who says your name gains an advantage against you.
Oh no.
So, and it'd
Okay.
be limited. It's like if anybody was like,
Yeah.
all right, is it Elena?
No, it's Elona. It's a
Elona.
yo sound. That E with the 2 dots
Elona,
over
I
is a
curse
yo.
and damn you. And then my difficulty to hit you is like lowered by 2
Okay.
or something like that.
I'll think on it.
That's why you need
But
a
those are
really
some good
complex name that's hard to pronounce.
Yes.
Alyona Fyodorov.
See? I'll never...
Yelena Fyodorov. Yeah.
I've been practicing her name for months now.
Right? Did anybody else have a merit or flaw they want to bring up? We don't have to do this step.
I was we had talked about it a little bit, but I was thinking of taking personal aura.
Personal aura, which actually will segue into our next topic.
That one allows your aura rating to be based on your willpower, and you get to choose your own bearing for it. So for the character, which the clan is now very much ambiguous because I'm not sure anymore. I'm like, oh god, I do like a good La Sombra. God damn it.
I like a bad La Sombra more.
Right?
Bad La Sombras are great.
Oh my god, but it's so easy to anyway, what was I saying? Right. So I was thinking of playing the taking one of the ones from the Path of Paradox. Which is normally Ravnos, but it's their bearing is confidence. Because I thought, as somebody who is very devout individual, and believes. And in this time frame, I am pretty much that person with a ladder and a high visibility vest. I am exactly where I need to be at every point in time, doing exactly what God has intended for me to do. And it is something that he very, very firmly believes, and actually has that aura presenting itself.
That's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. Anybody else want to throw one in?
So other than the animate shadow, again, it was really interesting because I'm all about like making my character harder to play, or you know, more damaged. One of the things which so I wasn't a revenant, but I took the revenant weakness
Yes.
flaw. So went with the Bradaviches. So my extra weaknesses I have the same weakness that the Brahahaga gets, which is I get a +2 difficulty to frenzy checks. So
I like to call this weakness rar.
Rar,
Yeah.
yes, the rar weakness. And well, I guess my main weakness for Tzimisce is you have to have 2 handfuls of your native soil with you to rest. Otherwise, you don't sleep well.
And I believe, because I had to look this up very recently for my other game, I believe it's from the place you feel is home.
Yeah.
Essentially. So it doesn't have to be like a very specific place that you were born or anything like that, or where you were embraced, or your grave. It could be your grave.
Could be your grave.
But it's a very specific character feeling as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also the flaw of you have to have your. There's also another like soil weakness flaw for the Tzimisce, which I didn't take, but was you also have to have 2 handfuls of soil from your sire's place of residence as well.
That sounds like a dirty job.
It's a very dirty job, but I didn't
You have to
take that.
soil yourself, and then your sire has to soil you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any merits or flaws they want to discuss?
Well, I don't know anymore.
We talked about the derangement being the biggest one. Remember when we were talking, we decided like, oh, I like the big ones.
The big ones are great. Did you take Bedeviled?
Which one is that?
It's the one where once per game I can decide that you fail after everything is said and done. I actually don't remember if it is in Vampire the Masquerade. It's a great one for Mage the Ascension, where it's like no matter what you do, you can get 15 successes. You can spend willpower. I can decide that you fail.
Wasn't Kal interested in Charmed Existence?
Oh yeah, what did you take, dude? Tell me your merits and flaws if you're the ones you're willing to tell.
Yeah, because I think I accidentally saved a blank character sheet over my character sheet, so I'll work through it.
This is the way.
But the thing we talked about, would be like, what if we go like really hard on that kind of like martyr or messenger or whatever? And I think I know that we
did you
gave
take Guardian
him,
Angel? You took Guardian Angel.
I know that we gave him Guardian Angel.
With 6-point merit, which
it's
is
a huge merit. Doesn't leave.
But it's literally the guy from Fallout shows up with a revolver and saves your life. Like you literally have Spider-Man going, everybody gets one, and then flies.
Except you.
Except you. Yeah. I've got a punch card. On the 10th one's free.
Yeah. So we took Guardian Angel. That one will be like, it's one of those ones that's entirely up to the storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it was like, hey, if you can make that work. And Kelly was like, hell yeah. I love the big like flaws and merits.
The big flaws and merits are my favorite, guys. I love flaws and merits. I love them even more in Mage the Ascension. Mage has the best flaws and merits. Because they're so diverse and you can really create some great backstory with them. Vampires are probably the second or third best after Demon the Fallen, because no internet access.
a
Do you-
different flaw with Revenant Weakness? I'm really debating on that one.
Yeah, you totally
I've been
can.
hemming
You
and
have
hawing.
1 week remains.
Do you?
Okay, but vampire help then from the vampire, peeps.
Yeah, we'll help you. I'll help you. I can do it right now or I can do it later. But Revenant weaknesses, there are a ton of them. I would have to remind myself because it's been about 10 years since I've dealt with
But
Revenants.
then should I take that flaw with my character's background, or should I just sub something out?
Look at what the alternatives are before you decide. It's okay given her background. I feel like she might be someone who succumbs to anger and power very easily now that she is able to get revenge on anyone who wrongs her.
Yeah.
You could have like a low self-control score as well. That
That's
just
true.
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the
but-
Brahahaga flaw is reflected, right?
Mhm.
Well, it's for your
but-
frenzy rolls, which is usually, I believe, you're rolling your self-control.
So I'm
Kal.
looking. I should look at the mage one for Bedeviled, is what you're.
Well,
you're
Kal, do you remember what Charmed Existence does?
Which one was that? Because I do
don't know
remember
if
you
you can-
bringing that up.
Well, actually, you can afford.
It's a 5-point merit, and
Okay.
on every roll that you make, you get to ignore 1/1.
This is true.
What are the benefits of ignoring 1/1?
You
You botch a lot less.
because it won't take away a success. You're just like, no,
So-
that doesn't exist on this roll. It's
So, and we are using the alternative, well, not alternative, but you can have a max of 7 points of flaws, but can have an unlimited amount of merits so long as you pay for them.
As long as you pay for them.
we'll all pay for them.
That's
one
kind
way
of
or
like an
another.
interesting, like, fool's luck. Kind of.
That it's definitely in my mind makes me think of like the lucky fool, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna take some chunky merits. And maybe a good chunk flaw to
Do it.
milk that 7 points of flaws.
Milk it. All right, so let's jump into the next section. All right, so we're still going to be tweaking a little bit. We're using paths and auras. I strongly want to encourage that everybody start on the road of humanity, the path of humanity, just because you got 800 years. You got plenty of time to fall off the wagon. And
Never fallen. I'm
never
climbing
fallen.
it to the top.
We know my path
Wakanda.
is the path of metamorphosis is what I'm gonna go for at the end of the that is my goal is the path of metamorphosis.
me too.
I'm probably going to end up on a path. We'll see what happens, but considering my character, I can expect either very low humanity or a path. But Path of the Beast is very common for Gangrel.
What do you
but it could be
think about
something else.
Path of Lilith?
I mean, I do like Path of Lilith, but
Path of Lilith is great.
it might conflict with her other beliefs.
This is true. So, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, basically, in traditional vampire media, we all know the dramatic tale of the vampire who's fighting his urges. And that's basically the path of humanity. It's a rating on your sheet where you try to stay as human as possible so that you don't succumb to your inner vampire, your inner beast. But Vampire the Masquerade has alternative paths that you can learn, different codes of ethics, ones that completely change the way you see about the world. For example, the path of the hunter changes it so that you are all about the hunt. Instead of mass murder being a sin, it is all about hunting without ritual preparation is just as bad as mass murder. So if you don't praise the correct gods, do the correct hunting rites,
I like that one.
right? So it's pretty neat. We're going to start in humanity because the characters are freshly embraced, but this campaign, Chronicle, is going to take place over 800 years. There's plenty of time for them to fall off, and we can watch them slowly erode into real monsters,
That's the beauty
which
of
I'm
this
looking
game.
forward to,
Yeah.
right?
Monster.
Monster. All right, so beyond that, this is a game set in the Dark Ages, and languages are a pain in the ass. So we are using the alternative movie system that they suggest inside of Transylvania Chronicles. And what that is that we're breaking down the language types from like oh god, 200 languages or something that were probably spoken in that region at that time, down to some very basic ones. This is the oversimplification that they suggest. Slavonic, collection of dialects. Slavonic is basically the vernacular of Eastern Europe, spoken through Bohemia and Poland. And so on. Basically, that will cover most Slavonic languages. Hungarian is for Hungary. Period. Romanian is for the people that will become Romanians eventually. Specifically, the province of Pannonia. Baltic and German are the big ones for this chronicle. There are also other ones. You could theoretically speak English. You could speak French. Frankish. Yeah, you could speak Frankish. You could speak Arabic. You
Greek,
could speak
Latin.
Hindi. Greek and Latin, of course, are huge. And you can take other ones, but these are the basic ones. I would like it if everybody had one language in common. So,
So for that record, I'm probably the one with I have the illiteracy flaw. I don't do languages. I am not dumb, but I am very physical. I am taking Slavonic. It's specifically Eastern Slavonic because I'm hoping I can maintain an accent with her that's a little bit more like she's not quite speaking all the right words that other people may know, because she's more using the Eastern version of Slavonic, but yeah.
that's fair.
So
And
I took the merit of lingua franca, which is you're able to speak
Hey.
a mixed language made of common tongues that most people you encounter will understand.
I think Chris did
Yep.
too.
Yeah,
It makes sense for your characters.
yeah, it
It does.
does.
you basically are doing how I got around in Japan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It makes sense for those two characters, especially one that's like noble heritage and one that's like from the church. It's why my character only has one name. I'm pretty sure like commoners, it's at least a few hundred years out before.
It really wasn't until after the Black Death that the last names became particularly common.
It does depend on your culture, but yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, through most of Europe though, like most of Europe was
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that'll be interesting. But I'm with when you took illiteracy, that means that Jen, your character can't write, but they can speak and learn the
Yeah.
spoken language is fine.
Yeah, I just can't read or write. Which
so
makes sense.
what language did you take, Bastion? For Bastion?
I took what are the starting languages?
So Slavonic,
That's what we're determining, really.
West Slavonic, Slavonic, East, West, and South. I don't see a North on here.
Yeah,
Okay.
it kind of depends where you're from. Like if you're like a commoner from the say Romanian area, you could speak Romanian.
Yeah, because I had Frank and Romanian, but what are the starting mechanically? What are the starting? How many languages does a character know?
You get one.
You get one,
or in
everybody gets
this
one.
case, one group.
Yeah.
One
yeah.
group. So
And we are counting we can count Romanian and Slavonic as close enough because they kind of are.
Yeah. And then just Slavonic is one where you have to pick a subcategory, though. So that's why Jen was being so specific.
I'm being specific because I'm a history nerd and I will forever be specific. And
true.
that is just me. I
true.
don't care if anyone else is.
so probably the one that we're all speaking then, so that we can actually communicate
Slavonic.
with each other.
Some
Slavonic.
version of Slavonic then, yeah.
Hooked on Slavonics.
It worked for me.
Well, you could also take Romanian and just speak close enough and then just have an accent in character.
Well, Jen's going to use an accent.
Yes,
So-
but you could use different accents. So one of you could have an accent like this, and the other could have an accent like this. No, don't have that. Don't be an Australian. Don't be an Australian in this day and age. It would be weird.
It's Austria, not
Heretic.
Australia.
Oh, sorry. I always
Yeah.
get that mixed up. All right. So think about what language you want to do. All right. So With that, a couple of setting details that I want to say right off the bat. So this is going to be set in, of course, the Dark Ages. It's going to be set through Transylvania. It's the Transylvania Chronicles. Okay. Real quick, I do want to say this right now. This is a game that is set in a version of the real world. However, here's the deal. I have a history degree. I have a history master's. Jen is a historian who spends a lot of time with the SCA. The rest of these people are huge nerds who know a lot about history. We are not here to tell a historic narrative as per history. We're here to tell a story that is set in history with vampires. Okay? So, when I was doing my history degree, I actually focused on historical media. And one of the big things that we talked about in that is the difference in historical fiction between historical accuracy and historical authenticity. Historical authenticity is what we're going for here, where it feels like the time period. I'm going to lean a lot into Hollywood tropes. I want this to be enjoyable for myself. I want this to be enjoyable for my players. Jen is going to do tons more research than everybody else in this game on historic time period because she enjoys it.
Yeah, so I had to make a caveat for things because I'm like, if you're going to ask my opinion on historical things, I am going to research it and give you the correct answer. I don't care if you go with that correct answer, but I am going to give it to you if you ask for it.
It's the same in our Mage the Ascension game. In our Mage the Ascension Victorian era game, we are about to enter a book where there is a railroad that runs from Cairo to Bombay. That railroad, I don't even think exists today, but it did then because the technocracy said it did.
Mm-hmm.
And I have spent hours mapping out the way that it could have happened. Yeah.
And before that, you asked me about it, and I was like, here's an option for you. And it was the worst thing.
It was the worst thing because it involved like 6 boats.
It involved like 6 boats and a carriage ride.
And I was like, no,
Across
we're just going to say that
Turkey.
we're just, nobody, no, we're not turkey lurking. But anyway, so we're going to do our best to make sure this game is fun. If you are obsessed with history, this might rankle you a little bit. We're going to have fun first, and we're going to be historically accurate second. Here's a pro tip, though. If you're getting upset that our history is not accurate in our vampire game about vampires in history, there should have been a speed bump before you got upset. And it is the fact that we're playing a role-playing game. You know, we don't know what real vampires were like back then. They didn't leave any notes.
We don't know what real vampires were like back then?
No, they didn't leave any notes, man. All vampires are illiterate.
So we're not even playing accurate.
No.
Vampires, no.
No, we're not.
We're really not.
So, with that in mind, if anybody has any other concerns or ideas, the only other things that I would think would come up, of course, in a historic game that would cause problems are y'all being sexist toward each other or toward half the cast. Basically, Chris and Kal could be sexist jerks in character. Let's lean off that a little bit. I assume that once you're a vampire, you're still probably a little bit sexist, but once you're dead, it kind of evens out a bit. You know,
It's more about proving yourself, your ability and what you do.
Well, you have such supernatural powers that like and
it evens the odds.
Well, and you lose all the things that like make you human, and you have the supernatural powers. It does.
And there's
like
a different
you're beyond human. So the idea
there's
of
a
like
different hierarchy. There's the generations where suddenly who you are and who your sire is and all that stuff is more important than if you're male or female or other.
And there's high clan or low clan, which is more important than if you're male or female.
It's true. And on that note, actually, Robin, I know that some people these days don't like talk of gender politics or gender identity, but you're a Zamisi, and you absolutely are the one person in this game, you're playing the one person in this game, who can decide to click a checkbox that even people who are against gender politics can't argue with. You can be like, other, because I'm literally going to be,
other. Yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna take both. You can do all sorts of things. So I think that it really is important to discuss this type of stuff. So the other thing is class differentials. So not just low clan, high clan, but Bastion and Elona. Elona. So the two of you on the bottom are, I love actually, Michael accidentally did this in a certain way that the low clans are on the bottom and the high clans are on the top.
Beautiful.
It's so good. And even if Chris, you change to La Sombra, you're still a high clan.
You're still a high clan.
Yeah.
You're still a man of character. All right.
I wouldn't go
so,
that far.
I love it. So does anybody else have any other concerns, or are we pretty good on that? Like, just basically have fun toward each other. You feel free to lord yourselves around over the lower class. Lower class, feel free to undermine them.
I will say
first-
that another flaw I have is that I have the vulgar flaw, which means I will tell you what I think of you.
The nerd.
I don't know whether to take deviant or trickster demeanor.
I don't know. They're both good.
They're both
Tricksters. You're wearing a jester's hat. Take Trickster.
Yeah. Yeah, Soul, what's in your knickers? Teeth. When I get bone crafting.
Vagina
Wasn't there a
dentata.
movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
teeth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of this, let's talk about the film rating for this, because for content ratings, this is hard R, folks. If you're watching this show, it's going to be hard R rated. We are going to talk about things like bodily functions, blood, murder, death. I'm going to do, if there is ever anything before game that I feel merits a trigger warning, I will mention it during the opening of the game. I will also mention it if it is particularly gratuitous. I will never ever hold on something longer than it needs to get the point across, for two reasons. Number one, it could get us in trouble with Twitch, and two, it makes it less impactful. I would much rather suggest something, and for those of you who understand what I'm saying, your brain will fill in the gaps a lot better than me going into detail about blood and gore will. And I can use quick synonyms, I can use quick metaphors, I can use quick descriptions. So rather than, I'm about to say something gross, just warning you in advance. So for example, Chris is playing Brahahaga or La Sombra. Either way, you have potence. One of my favorite descriptions is, instead of going into detail about you pummeling a man and like his ribs breaking out of his chest and blood oozing down, I could say that you hit him with such force it sounds like someone twisting a rotisserie chicken. Right?
See,
You can do.
Did you see my reaction to that versus you just explaining that? I went.
Yeah, you do less with more evocative things. There are some things I'm going to list right now that will not be handled on stream, but may be implied. Violence definitely will be very present in this game. So will the drinking of blood. Violence. Vampires are not particularly sexual in this. They can have sex, but it is not really on the top of their list.
Wait,
Blood
there's
is
going to be
better than-
blood?
There's going to be blood. There will be
Shocking.
blood. Blood is better than an orgasm to vampires in Vampire the Masquerade, unlike Vampire the Requiem, where both are good. It's one of the reasons I think Requiem has a couple of one-ups, because it's a little more sexual. However, I don't tend to like telling stories that focus too heavily on sexual assault. So I think that anything that happens there can be implied rather than stated, and never happens to a player without their consent. That includes players toward each other, that includes players toward any type of outside actor. Any sexual content beyond a, basically I use a James Bond rule for my sex content, which is we pan to the fireplace. You can make out on the couch for a second, then we're gonna pan away like in a James Bond movie.
You might see a nice pair of ass cheeks.
I might describe, you might there might be a description. I mean, they're literally in last night's Strixhaven, there was a mention of pegging. So,
Yeah, Edagon,
so
glistening like a frickin' newborn, I think you said.
I don't believe
great.
there was a mention of it, but there was definitely very clear allusion to it.
Illusions. We're going to be doing a lot of illusions here. It's an illusion, Michael, an illusion. And an illusion. There's a Ravnos doing our special effects. Besides that, other things that I do want to say, one thing that does come up in the beginning of this, and I will do a warning at the time, the first chapter does have a mention of human slavery. It is brief, but it is uncomfortable, and I've been going back and forth on it whether or not I wanted to include it. It's not that big of a deal for the plot, but I think that it gives you a chance to intervene if you choose. I'm not telling you have to when I say that, by the way. You can totally leave these people to their own horrible devices and show that you are a monster. However, if it's something that would rankle your character, you can intervene. I try to not set up these things that are bad in the environment unless the characters can choose to intervene or not. Yes, Robin.
I would suggest, because I was recently watching, and I'm so sad that the 3rd season is not on Prime anymore. It's on freaking Hulu or something. It's the Great. It's all about Catherine the Great, and it says like a sometimes historically accurate show. And they talk a lot about how life was for Russia and that, and a lot of it, like there's the whole issue about freeing the like the servants and stuff that work for that, and they talk about it and they show it and present it to the show, and I think it doesn't ever degrade. It makes you sometimes go like, ooh yeah, we were bad in the past, but it does it in a tasteful way that's not like necessarily glorifying it or romanticizing it or lessening it. It's like, this is what it is. This is an issue. And of course, Catherine is all about paying those people. So again, it is that point where it's like, there's the chance to do something good for that. And that, yes, slavery is part of our history. It is a terrible part of our history, but especially like in the medieval times, you know, they're like, oh yes, we own and we take care of these people. Like, what would they do if we weren't looking after them? If we weren't clothing them and feeding them?
Well,
like,
and you are going to find for your character as a Voivode, that is exactly your experience in this, because you are going to be playing a lord.
Yeah.
And the people are as loved to you as dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
As pets.
And you used to be part of a revenant family, which is ghouls, which is effectively vampire slavery, because you give them blood and they're suddenly in love with you.
Yeah.
So
I never thought about that, but like the whole vampire and sire thing is like,
it's a pyramid scheme.
Or ghouls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Especially
It's all,
Yeah.
vampires are monsters. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing monsters.
Somebody
Now,
I know,
anybody who's
once
watching
said
this, before you head to the comments about this and go, oh, you shouldn't be playing a vampire game. Oh, don't worry. It's going to be dark as hell. And it's going to be vampire as hell. It's going to be the most vampire experience you'll watch in quite a while. But we're getting this front loaded. This way we can play hard.
Yeah.
Somebody I know once said that if you're playing vampire, you've already lost.
This is true. And for
Surfs,
anybody,
thank you, Cal. Surfs, that was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, surf and turf.
Yeah, surf.
Yeah. So
surf on my turf.
Surf on your turf. And if anybody like another just a thing about this, going through, you know, why are you taking the time to do a session 0? Why are you talking about this? It's the same as kink culture. If you talk in advance about your yucks, your yums, your boundaries, you can play as hard as you want inside of them. Think about it like football. Because you're not allowed to bring a knife onto the field, you know that you're not going to get knifed. So you can tackle as hard as you want.
Rather than a knife ball, where, you know, you might have a knife.
Then
but you don't get tackled in knife ball.
No, exactly.
It's tackling is off the
table. I'm playing it wrong.
Yeah, no, you're playing knife tackle. That's a much different.
That sounds fun though.
You're playing Australian rules.
Oh no!
Right.
You call that a knife?
You call that a knife ball? This is a knife ball. Jen, write that down for me to create a new sport for our D&D.
Oh my God, knife ball. There's wyvern ball. Then you have knife ball. Yes.
Wyvern ball and knife ball. You don't play them next to each other because then the wyverns get knives.
Then it's all over.
So this game is going to also handle a lot of war, handle a lot of horror. Racism isn't going to be much of a thing in this. Neither is homophobia, because they're just boring. Racism in this would be more country-based anyway. You know, crusade-based, things like that. It's not going to factor in.
It's more high clan, low clan type, like thought process rather than the regular version.
It's the lords.
I love that you're literally beneath us this game. It's gonna be great.
I didn't plan that, but it's just basically you're just that meme from Twilight. Just the three vampires
Oh
from the
my
Oh
Oh my
Terry.
Those
So
I
so-
recently watched all of the Twilight movies
For your
with my
podcast.
partner who had never. Oh, I mean, yeah, for the podcast.
yeah, for your podcast.
And with my partner who had never seen any of them. And when the Vitari or like whatever showed up, we were already making like Camarilla and
Oh,
Sabat jokes
absolutely.
and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, hold on. Somebody's played Vampire the Masquerade. Because there's literally like the bad guy wild like Sabat packs that are like after Bella. And
Yeah.
then there's like the hoity-toity like Vontrue like running everything.
I love that you call them
clan.
the Vontrue.
Huh?
I love that you call them the Vontrue. It's a.
I don't know how that started.
I know how it started. It started because of the guy you used to play LARPs under. It said Vontrue, and it stuck with you.
It's always whoever teaches you.
Yeah.
Right. I say Camarilla and I say like Vontrue. I say Bruja.
I recently
I say
saw a
Bruja.
video.
I can't say
I saw a video of
Bruja.
like
It's Bruja.
yeah, a video of clips of people pronouncing Bruja, and it was like a bunch of people in the VTM space, and there were like 800 versions of saying Bruja and different
Try
like it was
Zamisi.
wild.
Zamisi is so bad.
Jamici.
Jamici.
You want some Jamici and cheese?
That's the
Uh,
Italian Zamisi. It actually is a meme inside of the old vampire books that no one knows how to pronounce Zamisi, because every one of the pronunciation guides in the Guide to the Sabbat, in Revised, and in Second Edition are all different.
Oh my god.
So one is like Samise, one is Zamits, one is Zamisi. So I say Zamisi.
Yeah.
That is how it is pronounced in this world of darkness.
I
I
have a
watched-
little bit of a harder T on mine. It's Zamitzi.
Zamitzi.
I say
Yeah, I put a little more of a
Jamici.
T.
That's fine.
Zamitzi.
Because I was listening
Zamitzi.
to a
Zamitzi.
podcast with like one of the writers, and he pronounced that last part like chi, like Zamich.
Zamich.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one that's actually more
Zamich.
based on the Slavonic languages.
Whenever I've heard Kal say Ventru, sorry, that's how I say it. I always think that that's how a Ventru would say Ventru.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. I said, isn't it Ventru?
Ventru.
And I was like, yeah, but it sounds great saying Ventru.
Von
Fair.
Oh, honey,
Yeah.
I'm not
Like-
Ventru. I'm
I'm
You're
Von-
not just a venture
Exactly,
capitalist.
exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
I think there's also people who say like instead of gangrel, which is how I pronounce it, gangrel.
Yes,
I used to say gangrel.
Yeah.
they would say they said gangrel in the Kindred the Embrace TV show as well.
Yeah.
And I know
So our pronunciation's gonna be all over the map. Just deal with
and
it.
I know
just-
that,
just
that
deal with it.
Bloodlines says Camarilla. And I know it's
It's-
fine. I know it's fine, but I can't. I can't.
Both
do
are
it.
fine.
Camarilla
fine.
just codes way too Spanish for me, which is the point in some
But
cases. But
But it is that, yeah. It means like click.
The
Yeah.
clique. The room
Clique.
where it happens.
it's just one of those things where it's
Um,
like it's the Spanish loan word that got brought into English, and so the English pronounce it badly. That's what
right.
happened.
We pronounce it correctly now. America.
Plus 10 in the
Uh,
chat was like Von True the Ventru. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
Von
Von
True the Ventru.
Von
Von
True
True the
the
Adventure
Ventru.
Ventru.
Maybe I should play a Ventru.
no.
No, don't play a Ventru. Nobody likes the Ventru. And if you like the Ventru, you're wrong. No. Start a war. So other things. Oh yeah, and Zamisi is only correctly pronounced by the Zamisi because they can create additional tongues to pronounce it.
Fair.
There
Yeah.
you go. So, okay. So basically, that's what we've talked
Tongue
about.
game is
Are there
strong.
so public lines and veils? So I've sent out a survey for you all to fill out so that I have your lines and veils. Basically knowing your limits and playing within them. I've mentioned a bunch of them. I think. Oh boy, Chris. This is all stuff that they have permitted me to say. Chris, no eyeball stuff. I will try to do, but we have a Zamisi.
No, my eyeballs.
Okay, don't touch Chris's eyeballs. Anybody?
No, I've
Okay,
gotten
don't
I've gotten
touch
to a point. I've gotten to a point where I will shudder. I will be but I can deal with other people's things. It's like my own is
That's
like I
that's
can't do
spiders.
contact lenses.
That's
like,
for
even-
spiders
oh,
for me.
yeah.
That is spiders for me. I'm fine with it being. I've gotten okay with it being on other people, but little spiders on me, fuck off.
You managed what I did in Zero Sum, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So they were big
It
spiders.
was real
They-
close. There was little
so-
spiders
Big
too.
and little
They're big.
spiders.
They're big and little
Oh, there were little
spiders.
spiders.
Yeah.
So, beyond that, does anybody have any lines or veils? I know we've always talked that no mummy style stuff under the skin. We have a Zamisi. So I will just warn you in advance, and you can always call a fade to black if you need to, okay? Unfortunately, with Vampire the Masquerade, it's a little... The lines are a little further out.
There's a lot
than they
more
normally
body
are.
horror. So if your body horror is body horror, if body horror is your ick, then yeah.
especially with a Shamichi.
Jamichi.
Yeah, god damn it. Get it all out in session 0. Okay, so let me know if...
Zamiski.
Zamiski. I'm
Have
feeling
some Zamiski with your
Zamiski right now.
Okay,
The
so...
Zymisty Dynasty.
Zamiski.
All right, so those
hired.
are the lines and veils that we are going to be dealing with. If there are any more, please let me know before we begin game. But let's hop into house rules and stuff. So welcome to the Edition War. I'm going to talk very briefly. We are using Vampire the Masquerade, the Dark Ages, 20th edition. It is a big boy. And we're using this because it's the most recent distillation of Dark Ages. This was written for Vampire the Masquerade. Well, it was written for Dark Ages. I believe the original Dark Ages. Yeah, not even Dark Ages Vampire the Dark Ages.
Yeah,
Which-
there's so many things.
There's so many different of these. So basically, first edition Dark Ages versus the third iteration of Dark Ages. Okay? So this was the easiest to translate for this. Why are we not using Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition? I am not as big of a fan of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition as I am of this. There are things about 5th edition that are really good. There are things about 5th edition that I think are actually better than Vampire Revised or V20 or Dark Ages 20. The hunger mechanic is great. However, given that we are running a pre-made adventure that does have some very specific things in it that I have to rely on, it is the most advantageous for my time and for your time and the coherency of this game for us to use 20th edition Dark Ages. The hierarchy of books, as I said before, is this, followed by V20, followed by Dark Ages Revised and Vampire Revised. Okay? If anything falls outside of that, will be added on a case-by-case basis. And I bring this up because there's a huge war in the Vampire the Masquerade community between 5th Ed and V20. And it's just... They're both good games, guys. They're
And
Depends on what you're looking for.
yeah.
I am going to try to not help with any rules calls. Luckily, we have Chris here. Chris knows the rules.
My brain is soup these
And
days.
so do
Fair.
I.
I
But-
was refraining
my
from
brain is
saying
too.
it, and I'm like,
I couldn't. I'm sorry.
You know, neither of you know the rules for this game.
which is why I
But-
didn't say anything.
Yeah. But I will have like the book if we need to look stuff up, but I'm going to try to
Yeah.
avoid actually telling you rules calls that I don't read directly from the book, because I have this weird hybrid system of 5e plus V20 Dark Ages plus random shit we threw together because we needed to somehow translate V20 into something that worked. Like for our game, for my non-streamed game. So
Needless,
I don't even remember V20 rules right now.
needless to say,
So-
there will definitely be times where we get confused on different versions of the rules and what's going on, and we're just going to make a call and go with it. Will it be wrong? Yes. Will we fix it? Maybe. Maybe we'll like what we did better. But it's not always
We-
going to be completely
we-
accurate.
We don't want to stop the flow of game for too long, because generally things flow nicely in the role play. You don't want to.
Yeah.
I've heard this on a podcast recently, but breaking kayfabe
Yeah.
to do
You
rules
don't
calls.
break it.
And if we want the audience to help us figure out a rule, we'll ask.
Yep.
Otherwise,
And-
we prefer if you leave us to our devices.
And thank you, Nerdy Metal Gent, in the chat for saying my face of edition fatigue. That is 100% accurate. So those of you, and I think it's so funny because I've had so many people on YouTube comments when I was first learning 5e as a DM come and correct me about rules calls. And they're like, leave comments, well, that's wrong. And they get, like, some people would be really haughty about it. And I'm like, this is your first role-playing game, isn't it? So of course you know it like the Bible or something like that. I have 30 or 40 different role-playing engines in my head at any given time, of which I run 10 of for this channel on any given week.
And, you know, some of them have really cool ideas that might actually work better if you just throw them in a little bit.
And I will say, for anybody who thinks that Vampire the Requiem is not a good game, any of the Chronicles of Darkness games, I invite you to take a look at those rules and then reread a lot of the Vampire 5th Ed rules that work, because a lot of them were borrowed directly from Chronicles of Darkness. I'm not saying that it's the best engine in the world, but I'm saying there is a lot of crossover. Role-playing is a growing science, a growing art, and people take what works and they try to make something better. It's cool. That's it. On our war, we're on the side of Dark Ages 20 for this, because it just makes life easy. And so the rest of you, like, you know, Dark Age 20 people can come hang out with us. But, you know, if you're in 5th Ed, you'll understand it. It's just that the Lasombra are kind of cooler. And the Zamisi exist and don't just have Protean. It's neat. You'll like it. It's a little overcomplicated, I won't lie.
I just think it's neat.
I just think it's neat. You know, I just think it's neat. All right. So other house rule things. Experience points. Thankfully, in Dark Ages Vampire, it is clear for a change that it says times current rating that you have. So it is the cheap XP.
Nice.
And for those of you who say, what are you talking about, Kelly? It's always been clear. No, it isn't. Justin Achilles specifically said inside of Vampire the Storyteller's handbook that it was by the rating that you are buying. And Justin Achilles confused the hell out of me. Achilles, this is all on you.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Damn Justin Achilles. Also saying that the bubonic plague was airborne. Anyway.
So it's the cheap one?
It's the cheap version. So it is. So if you're buying a level 3 ability, you pay 2 times 2. So if it's 2 times the rating,
level you're at,
The current
not the level
rating.
you're buying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, the level you are currently at versus the level that you're buying up to.
the first ability dot is separate in the experience chart. So
Yep.
that's
Gotcha.
3 XP. And then
So
your
it's-
second dot is actually 2 XP.
I
Yeah.
used to hate that.
3 XP. No,
I used to hate that when I was younger. Like when I was in my 20s,
Oh,
I
but
was
it makes
like,
so much
well,
sense.
well, that doesn't make sense. Why is it 3 XP to have a level 1 ability and only 2 XP to get a level 2? And then I got a master's degree and I was like, it's way easier to learn a little more of something once you have a foundation,
It's
actually.
true. Honestly, it's true. Once you have that base, get over that initial like learning
Yeah.
barrier. It's a lot easier once you speak the language of the
Yeah.
thing that you're learning.
that's really what it is. Level 1 is terminology.
I did a little bit of martial arts when I was younger, and one of the things the sensei always used to say was the hardest part about learning kata was learning how to learn kata. And then once you learned how to learn kata, they just started to flow, and it was just
Nice.
It's
practicing. them.
all about learning
And
the techniques,
it was true.
the muscle memory of trying to do something.
I
true.
learned that personally at the old age of 29. I decided I'm going to learn how to skateboard, and it took me weeks before I could even like lift my second foot off the ground to try to balance on it. And I was like, this isn't going anywhere. I'm not a teenager. I lost my chance. And then one day I just got it. And then getting better and going down hills and everything was easier past then. And I think of everything like that. It's just like getting that first dot makes so much, it must be so much harder than getting
It's like the riding a
second
bike.
dot.
Oh man.
Like once you learn how to
literally
ride a bike,
when I was 33.
yeah.
Literally
And
learned how.
it's fucking hard to figure out your balance. But I
hard.
rode a bike. I learned to ride a bike when I was a kid. Fell a lot, and then I took a break for a while, and then I went to ride a bike again, like 15 years later. And it's like, okay, this is rough, but again, eventually, you know it. It's yeah.
I was so excited when I finally managed to like not fall.
Yeah, when you
That's-
stay
In my
straight,
30s
and
on a
get
bike.
it.
It's a great achievement, like
Great
the
achievement.
feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Oh man. So anyway, to get back on our point, we're using the cheap version of XP that is in the book. All right, so specialties. Reminder that we are using the core rules, not any house modified rules. So 10s don't explode unless you have a specialty. Specialties are gained when you have the 4th level in an attribute or an ability. There are some examples inside of the book for what they could be. They could be powerful grip for strength. They could be strong thighs. They could be winning smile for charisma. Things like that. You will be able to roll 10s. However, I was going to suggest an alternate one. Do we want to have an additional specialty when you hit level 5 or 6 in something?
Or did we want to do the mage route of you can buy extra specialties and things, because that's another option. But
I think
it's
that's
in-
probably better,
Ooh,
actually.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
buy additional ones.
because
Once-
core rules say you have to buy up to level 4 again in order to get another specialty. But mage has a I think it's like, I can't remember what
3
it's called,
XP
but
or something, like just a flat rate.
yeah, basically it's you can buy for, I think it's 3 XP, you can buy another specialty in something. But
Once
it's an
you've
optional rule
already
there.
met the requirements,
Yeah.
like have 4
Yeah.
or more.
Well, again, like going back to the metaphor and analogy we were looking at, like for studying and things like that. Like, I know I have a degree in biochemistry, so but like, so doing other fields of biology, though, I have a standard understanding of the basics, and so getting up to that other level is a lot faster because you already have a lot of the same applicable knowledge or muscle memory for things again. So it's a lot easier to get to that same point when you've
Now-
already done all the work.
On that note, many knowledges in this system, such as academics, science doesn't really exist, but say science did.
Crafts
have-
does. Is
Crafts
the
does.
other
So
type of
there are multiple things that you have to buy up. So when you choose academics, you have to pick a field and focus on it. You can't just be like all academics or all sciences. You have to choose biology, botany, things like that. There is an alternate rule inside of Mage of the Ascension called the well-trained craftsman. I believe that's what it's called.
that's the one for specialties for sure. I can't remember if it does apply to fields of expertise, but fields of expertise, once you get up to level 4, are your specialty anyway. So
So
then you can
what-
just buy other specialties.
So I would say that I believe that rule is that if you say have science biology and want science chemistry, it's half the XP.
Yeah,
To take it
something like
again. I think that's fine. You guys are going to have so many XP as we are going through this. Like so many XP, like a lot, like tons.
But as a reminder, just for chat people, because I mentioned this to the players before we started streaming, but for the abilities that require fields of expertise, if you are trying to roll a skill check on something that isn't in your field of expertise with that ability, you have no dice in the ability part. You can still roll the attribute potentially, but if you have crafts leatherwork and you're trying to sculpt something, you have no crafting ability.
And it is
So
a
on
different
that-
penalty between talent, skills, and knowledges.
Yes.
Mhm.
So your first column, basically, there's no penalty if you're untrained. Your second column, it's a +1 difficulty. And your third column, you cannot make the roll unless you have the skill. So you can't perform open heart surgery without knowledge of medicine.
Aw.
Also, to clarify, because like some dots you start in with a field of expertise already. So like I have philosophy and knowledges. Does that mean when I roll for a philosophy roll, do my 10s explode or not?
Not until you
That's my
hit level
question.
4.
Not
Not until
okay.
you hit level
Cool.
4.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
we'll
I
say
But
that
it
it's not-
automatically
it's not a
becomes a
specialty.
specialty at that point. So
Oh,
it
that,
is a-
that is
cool.
your specialty.
Yeah.
It is a focus. We'll say focus.
Okay, focus. Yeah, that's a lot. That's easier for my
A little more
brain to
academic.
understand.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to interrupt for a moment. Sorry. Professor Multiverse,
Yeah, yeah, no.
Random Equinox, and Ashen Windsong, thanks for the XP.
Starting off strong.
All right. So next up, hunting rolls. Hunting rolls are going to be not a set roll. They'll be situational depending on how you are going about hunting, meaning you can customize it. Period. We're gonna go with that rule. I like it better.
Can we just like talk about hunting rules for a second, because
Sure.
I'm just not familiar with them.
How would you go about hunting? So if you were trying to find someone,
feed on humans?
I'm assuming it's like a basic rule, like you use ability and an attribute, or
Yeah.
Oh,
Dex and stealth is a common one because you're sneaking in shadows, sneaking up on a person or animal to feed off them. But you could use manipulation and empathy to try and seduce someone.
Yeah.
What would be walking, riding a horse down a medieval pathway, jiggling or like bouncing heavy like coins, being like, "Oh, all of this money! Oh, geez, I hope no bandits show up."
That would be wits and
manipulation and
legerdemain,
subterfuge?
obviously.
Oh, okay.
It's wits and legerdemain. It's actually one of the examples inside of legerdemain. Cal, read the book.
Oh, geez.
It's a very specific book.
I would point to
Wits and legerdemain is if you're the one chasing the person riding the horse, trying to get the cash. That's the legerdemain part. Legerdemain is larceny, by the way. Essentially, it's larceny, it's pickpocketing, it's
yeah.
Is it pronounced legardemain?
Legardemain?
Only if you're
like...
Von True.
Okay.
Only if you're Von True.
All right, so that said, combo disciplines. Combo disciplines are something that showed up in Revised. Basically, you mix two disciplines together, and you get a special surprise technique. Where I'm going to allow them if you guys can find them. You'll have to learn them.
So is that like my bat ears? Is that a combination? That's a combination, or no?
So there's a bunch of combination disciplines listed, often in the Apocrypha in the back of Dark Ages core. And there's a specific, like, you have to have the 2 discipline amounts, and then you have to spend additional XP to learn this other thing.
It's like a rote.
Yeah, it's like a rote. Okay. Yeah, 100%.
So you have to spend XP to learn that rote?
Yes.
But it's like 3 or something. It's
depending on what it is, because it's like a
I was looking at Years of the Bat because it's 1 animalism, 1 vicissitude, and I have 2 points in each. So that'd be something different.
So that is a combo discipline. So you would buy that separately using the XP value that is listed there.
Okay.
And it allows you to take that in specific. For example, there is one that allows you to it's celerity, so super speed, and so super speed and potence, level 3 and level 3. You vibrate your blood so intensely that your unarmed strike does aggravated damage.
Wow.
Burning Wrath.
I see. I think this power costs 6 experience points to learn for this discipline for Ears of the Bat. Okay.
There's one for under the La Sombra section in like Lore of the Clans, which lets you punch people with your mind. It's Dominate and Potence.
Yeah. There's a I can't remember what I know Obfuscate is one of them, but it's basically like you write in blood and it turns to invisible ink.
Nice.
That's cool.
They're fun.
Yeah.
I do like.
That's cool.
I know. I saw something in. I think it was in the LARP actually that Cal ran in that version of the game. As your generation got lower, it was harder to learn combination disciplines, but then you could get elder level disciplines.
Yeah.
So there was like, as your generation was more watered down, I thought that was a really cool idea. I know there's not a system for that in the tabletop, but I thought that was
actually kind of his thin-blooded magic is definitely a thing in the later editions. Okay, so the combo disciplines are there, and let us talk real quick because we are streaming this live. If you're watching this later on YouTube or listening on podcast, thanks so much. I really do appreciate it. Definitely hit the subscribe button and follow the podcast. But if you're watching on Twitch, Twitch generates these things called channel points. They are basically just made by watching the stream. And to make the stream more interactive, you can spend them in order to change things on the stream. There are some nice easy ones. For example, in our D&D games, we have Determination, which allows you to add a bonus to your roll. However, that isn't really applicable here. So here's what's going to happen. Determination is going to be the same as willpower in this. If you buy a point of willpower determination, you name the character, they will regenerate a point of willpower up to their max, not above. Drama bombs, if you buy a drama bomb, I'll make the scene more dramatic at my leisure. A hurt them more means that I will cheat mildly. I might re-roll some failed dice on a roll that I'm using against the players. I might bump myself up in initiative. I might just give myself an extra success. I might spend, and I'll spend them on a case-by-case basis to just make the game a little harder for the players. Not in huge ways, but ways that probably are going to hurt them. There's another one called Something Good Happens, where I will do something to tweak something for the players. Maybe instead of getting staked in the heart, they get staked in the spleen.
Ouch. My spleen, but I'm alive.
My spleen.
I don't need that.
You don't need the spleen. So things like that. And then finally, the one that everybody's here for is that on our World of Darkness streams, you can pay to give the players, well, it's not paying, you can spend these channel points to give the players more experience points.
One more XP, I could buy Ears of the Bat. Straight out.
Thank you, Raven and Sabersloth.
So I raised it to 5 XP that people can buy a night for this session. And Raven actually did a purchase from Bookworm Games. And when you do a purchase from Bookworm Games, I double your purchase price. So you guys get 6 XP for tonight.
I'm buying Ears of the Bat.
What?
Yeah. So these are things that you can do. I'm not going to be worried about the characters getting too powerful. They're going to get too powerful. That's why they Diablerize and, eat other vampires, gain power. Num indeed. I'm gonna lower that back to 3 per session now because that's a lot.
Oh, darn. I think Caitlin was gonna try and buy XP.
Well, it's already maxed out, so it was a max of 5 anyway, so
it's only at 6 because Raven
bought
because the Bookworm Games deal. So does that mean anyone who bought XP, if they buy from Bookworm Games, it retroactively doubles it?
Yeah, so if you buy Bookworm tonight, get 15% off and we get another XP.
That's true. All right, so the final thing that I want to mention before we get toward the end of this is that this game involves a lot of blue booking. And this is something that we'll have to discuss a little bit later on. But blue booking, for those who aren't aware, is basically downtime role-playing. Originally coined through writing in like a blue notebook toward each other or things like that. This game has a lot of time jumps in it. And during that time, you will get things like maturation XP. However, there is a wonderful system in this that I adore where basically, does anybody have dice out right now?
I sure do.
Okay, Chris, we're going to do an example of this just for fun. So this is Transylvania by Night. I was wondering why I wasn't finding what I was looking for. For example, we're going to take a jump through time, and the way that it works is we are going to take a look at some backgrounds that you have. So the way that it's going to work is the storyteller should make any additional rules regarding backgrounds on this table, etc., etc. Let's see, before consulting these tables, decide which is the accepted maximum, blah, blah, blah. We do fortune paths. So, for example, let's take a look at your, do you have any points of allies, contacts, herd,
retainer,
or retainer? Sure. Retainer. Actually, retainer is not in this book. That's weird, man.
Oh, see, you persuaded me away from herd and to retainer.
No, I'm just saying retainer's not specifically in this. So do me a favor, roll me a d10 for your retainer. We'll say a retainer.
6.
Okay. You gain another retainer.
What?
Whoa.
It's free. You just gain it. Possible rationales. You focus on espionage. You drift through major social events. You become skilled at blackmail or bribery. You promise a mortal great power.
Cool.
Exactly. So Jen, do you have a D10?
Yep.
You have heard, right?
I have heard. I rolled an 8.
So do I actually get to start with this? Kidding.
Yeah. So Jen, in this case, you would gain 2 points of heard.
Ooh.
Growth of a powerful guild. Cure a disease that threatened a human or animal flock.
Just an animal pack that keeps growing and following me.
All right. Kal,
Get
you
along well
have.
with my animals.
Well, actually, let's say Teresa. So, Robin, roll me a d10 if you have one.
Yep, I do. Just a second.
All right. And we'll do this for your resources. We'll see what happens to your money.
My money.
Come on, 1.
No. 3.
Okay. So, disaster. Lose a point of resources.
No, my resources.
Possible disasters. Barbarians raid.
Kal really is a visionary. He called it.
Yeah, I know.
That's true.
He called it
And
disaster.
then-
It wasn't a 1, but still.
Kal, there's a great one here for where is it? For status. So lose a point of status, gain a point of status, possible disasters. The prince isn't actually dead. Hey, that prince isn't dead. You lose a point of status.
Oh my.
Hey,
You roll a d10. Tell me what you get.
Oh my gosh.
I got a 2.
Disaster, lose
Ooh.
2 points of status, potentially because a political alliance becomes a romantic tryst and then becomes a ride through hell.
Aha, I had 0.
So, all right,
Now I
you
have
have
-2.
-2 now. You are now blood hunted. Basically, your stats are going to change a lot in this as we go, particularly your backgrounds, and that's just what's inside of the first of 4 books that we are going through, because we are going through boom, plus boom, plus boom, plus boom. That's a lot of.
So it's wild to think of these
Wow.
characters like going. I've never
Yeah.
done anything like that. It's
And your
gonna be
characters,
crazy.
we're gonna have to get new art for them every like 6 to 8 months. Go to our wonderful artist Brahahaga. By the way, Brahahaga, thank you so much for doing
Oh
the
my
art
gosh.
for this. Brahahaga is amazing. You should definitely check out
So
our
good.
credits at the end of the episode if you're
Mhm.
watching on YouTube. And check, just go to Brahahaga, exactly how you think it's spelled. Brahahaga does a lot of game art. He's very, very affordable and very, very good. I strongly encourage him to anybody who is running an actual play stream or looking for maybe a gift for some friends, or getting some character art for themselves. He is fantastic, and we're gonna have to go back to him every time our costumes update over
So,
the
amazing.
fun
years.
fact, I already have 2 pieces of art for Brahahaga for this campaign.
Oh,
That's right.
For certain reasons.
For certain
Also,
reasons, which
as
I will
we're
not
shouting out
disclose.
Brahahaga, I also want to shout out Michael, our graphic designer, who did this lovely cleaned up version of my original pitch. This is way better than what I had going. So thank you so much, Michael, for always making us look gorgeous. And by the way, this isn't even our final form. Our overlay. This is the session 0 version, guys. The actual version with the character art is coming next week. So. Blue booking, we're going to be doing blue booking. We'll have to discuss that later, but there will be basically, I'm thinking that it'll be for our D&D games, we do how to run episodes. We will do a blue
A blue-
booking episode.
A blue
Oh, that's a
episode.
good idea.
Nice.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's a great
cool.
idea. Then we can have a game where we're non-costume. We can have a chill, kind of talk about how things are going, and
I can make people leave the room for a few minutes if needed, or we
Yeah.
can have like little
Oh.
side role play scenes.
And that's
My-
a great way to do
my
it because like
my
we can
hearing
all
aids come with me. I can still hear you.
Oh no.
because we can show the process that we're using for it.
Mhm.
That's I really like that.
It'll be a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and then you all can and then, for example, then we're all here at the table. If there is something that we are going up against that I'm having some problem brainstorming, why did you just get 5 points of retainer? We have a chat here that is helping us. We've got 4 players to help me. It's going to be fantastic. So with that, next week we are beginning the
Can I show
Transylvania
off my
Chronicles.
dice?
And so any last things? As always, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Bookworm Games, who is responsible for these dice. You want to check this out. This
while they're
is...
getting the dice out there. When you said, "How did you get 5 retainers?" I just imagine like a What We Do in the Shadows character being like, "Well, I had 2 ghouls, but they had kids."
Oh, fair. So look at those.
these
Those
Man.
are actual
dice.
bloodstones.
I just, I hope it's not too loud. I'm gonna try and put it a little way, but listen.
Yeah, those are actual bloodstone dice.
Listen to those
Merry Christmas,
I can
Robin.
just tell they're
Oh,
stoned.
nice.
It was such a good gift.
Oh, I need to
So-
go and raid you for some dice that someone may have gotten me.
Oh, that's true.
I need
I've
to
got
raid
them right
the
here.
kill.
I will deliver them when the snow clears.
Oh,
So
the yellow
because
on that stands out really
And
well.
Oh,
then
the yellow, and each one is different. Like it's true bloodstone, so there's variation, and like some of them are more like dark, and some of them have like some big, like
Yeah,
kind of
they're
almost like
cut.
opaque
Yeah.
crest. Oh, they're so pretty, and they feel so good to roll. Oh my
Are those
goodness!
still in? Are those still stocked?
Mhm.
They-
Yeah,
I
you
think
can totally
so.
get them.
'Cause
They're pretty
like
expensive because they're really high quality, but you can save 15% with code Dorktales. And Cal, I think I can get you a slightly better deal. Hit me up. I think we get a slightly better deal. Because we're working for them. And then I have these to use against you that Jen made. These bloody dice. So I'm very
Nice.
excited to kill you with them.
You waited
they-
them, right, Jen?
You weighted them.
Wait,
So
them
they're
to
like-
ones.
What is that? Like
No to 10.
red and black on
The-
red?
They're white, white and red, and then red numbers.
Son of a bitch, she did weight them.
Are they all one?
No, they're all 10s.
No, there's a lot of 3s and 4s. I got 2 successes on 10 days. Let's try this again. Hold on. Jen likes to be hurt in game. I'm attacking Jen.
I'm not.
I need to do
2,
Chris
3.
next.
I
That's
love
5 successes. I'm warming them up.
that it was 3 because we know how much you love that number.
Yeah.
All right, I attack Chris. Chris, you took some damage. All right. So, hey, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Is there anything else that we want to talk about on our way out here? Or that's Transylvania Chronicles. Each of you, read Transylvania by night. Chris, find out what the hell you're going to be playing clan-wise. Do it later. Do it.
Yeah.
Surprise us. Surprise us.
It would make Kelly's job more interesting since you're ex-church or whatever, and you were
We gonna make him play a
Lasombro.
Setite?
That's interesting too. If you were Lasombro, because like I think you kind of don't turn your back on the church when you're a Lasombro.
I like how they're just
Sombro. Oh
now.
my god.
No, we have to pronounce them like our good friend Ravnos Arkin does. Los hombres.
You absolutely
Hombres.
can turn your back on the church if you're a Lasombra, because my character in my other game is actually part of the like she's from the Arabic communities, and so
I mean,
like-
there's Pirate Lasombra.
there's pirate Lasombra. There's a whole thing about how the Catholic Lasombra are against the Muslim Lasombra.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's wild.
Oh, I didn't mean you can't as in physically can't. I meant they might have words to say about it.
With friends.
Friends
at this
in
point,
the dark.
at this point, not
That's the
really.
night.
Possibly later.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris, we'll talk about that later.
Yo,
Hey.
I'm shadow walking here.
Yo, I'm shadow walking here. God.
You're-
I
On
think
gonna
I
that
just
shadow
note,
need to
block.
keep saying all of the clan names improperly from here on out.
it's true. I will, if you guys really want, I will run for like a charity stream or an Extra Life thing. I will run what we do in the Camarilla.
Oh.
So
Shadow
can't-
walking here.
I can't roll my R's very well. So Robin, will you pronounce gangrel with rolled R's?
Gangrel.
Gangrel.
God.
There we
damn it.
go.
All right, so folks, see us back here next week, 7 o'clock Pacific on Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2024.
In costume.
In costume, with music and with lights and
My costume's
cameras
almost
and
done.
action and lots
so
of
excited.
blood.
If you're on our Discord and went into costuming and makeup, you might have seen a little test, makeup test I did for my character.
It's
I'm
pretty
so
great.
looking forward to my costume coming together. It's almost done. Yay.
So the final question that I want to ask you before we head out is, in this game, you are going to be, basically, there are a lot of different roads that this game can follow, based on who your patron is. I'm pretty sure, generally, you're not supposed to be given the choice of who your patron is, real quick. You're not having the Ventru. You're not having the Tremere. That said, there are 3 or 4 others. I think I would like to lean a little more in on a specific clan rather than a specific group of power players. Those are the two options, basically. Are you guys okay with that? Because given the way, Jen, you were hoping for a background NPC to be connected to you who would be very favorable toward this, and that kind of sealed the deal, having half the cast leaning in one direction. Are you guys all okay with that?
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
trying to be vague.
Totally.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm not sure what the question was.
That's okay.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. I'll tell you when you're older.
Yes.
By
And
next
when you're older-
next week.
You'll be older next week. The first episode of Transylvania Chronicles here on Dork Tales. Hey, a big thank you. If this is your first time here, give us a sub or a follow if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, respectively. If you're listening on podcast, give us a review. If you give us a review and like call me out, I will try to use your name as a character so long as it makes sense for the era. Also, if you like what we do here, the best way you can support this stream, besides following and watching, which we love, if you have a couple of extra bucks, consider going to our Patreon at patreon.com/dorktales. You get a bunch of additional content, including extra games every month, a behind-the-scenes podcast, a bunch of bonus features, like recently Robin, Christine, and I all ranked our most legendary characters that we've played on the channel. We have a special Valentine's Day episode that's going to be going up soon, and it's just all sorts of really cool stuff. And it helps pay the rent, honestly, because this is a full-time gig for me. So I really appreciate it if you checked it out. You could join the likes of which of our amazing producers, like our divine producer, who's my mom. Hi, Mom. That never gets it never gets old of being awkward. Our demonic producer Precarious, or our devilish producer Precarious, who you can also check out on Friday nights, where he runs his Mists of Vakani game over on his own Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Precarious, or you can check him out next weekend on Sunday afternoon here on Planescape, where he plays a Domo Arigato Mr. Roboto. Also, a huge thank you to our wizards of the Patreon, our Tremere of the Patreon, the Ink Goblin, Tammy the Forever Cleric, and most fitting for this game, the Sorcerer Sanguine. And finally, our High Council of the Patreon, which used to be called the Princes of the Patreon in Love of Vampire, but they've leveled up. Taryn, Dustin, Amberthist, Raven with Baubles, Karasha Urquhart, Chef Aladeth, Larouk, Mike Baxter, and Kelowna Curd. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for making my life and for keeping the lights on here. And to everybody else who is at the level 10, level 20, and VIP tiers and Dork Squad, thank you so much for being with us on these amazing adventures as we begin 800 years of darkness. We'll see you next week. Be sure to join us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for the first episode of our Changeling the Lost game, ran by our guest storyteller, Simon K. from the onyxpath. And with that, we'll see you next time, or I guess the first time, here on Dork Tales, the Transylvania Chronicles. Good night, everybody.
Bleh.
I do not always blah, blah, blah.